Hi, today I'm here with Carl Firestone of Maxville today. When did you first come to this area?
To this area in 1923 to this county, and we've been living at this place since 92
Where did you live before you lived here?
at Philipsburg on the Skalkaho Road. We had a ranch up there.
What ranch?
Yeah.
Which ranch?
It's part of the old T-Bar 3 ranch.
Oh.
And it belongs to, they call it Angel's Nest now or something. Some out-of-state guy owns it.
So you were an old-time rancher around here?
Well, since 1973, we came from down at Hall and Drummond. I spent most of my life down at Hall and Drummond.
What did you do in Hall and Drummond?
Well, we had a ranch down there and worked for wages for quite a few years. Before that, I was in the service from 42 until the end of 45.
That's a while. So you ranched down in Drummond. How big was the ranch?
It was about 1,500 acres down there.
Where was it at?
Part of it was out of Drummond, and part of it was east of Hall. It was in two different pieces.
Oh. Who owns the land now?
I think the one at Drummond is subdivided.
Oh, right there.
And the one at Hall, I don't know who the owner is now. It's changed hands 2 or 3 times since we were down there.
So were you like a ranch hand on these ranches, or did you did you own the ranches, or what?
Yeah. We were buying them.
In the process?
In the process.
Do you have any old stories, like specific things that you remember that were funny?
That's a hard one to answer.
Sorry.
Well, we, as a little kid, we lived up on Willow Creek, up on, well, you know where the dam's at, Willow
Right.
Creek Dam. It was right south of that. I went to school up there the first 2 years at the Gaylord School, they called it. And it's gone now. And when I was in the 3rd grade, we moved down to pretty close to Hall, about 5 miles out of Hall. My dad wanted to, he wanted us kids to go to a bigger school, so we went to a big school like Hall. There were 6 kids up on Willow Creek who went to school, and there was about 30 down at Hall.
Where did you go to high school at?
I went 2 years to high school in Drummond, and that was my downfall. I guess I got tired of going to school. Then I went in the service pretty shortly after that.
How many people were in the Drummond High School at that time?
You know, I can't answer that.
You don't know?
No, I don't. I really don't know. It was bigger than it is now. Just like Philipsburg, I'm sure the Drummond was quite a little bit bigger, but
Right.
I can't remember how many.
Okay.
That was in the late 30s when I went to school down there.
How about where did you serve when you were over? Did you go overseas then, Carl, during the war?
Yeah,
Were you,
yes. I went, when we got out of boot camp, we went to Treasure Island, which is they called it a receiving ship, and it was between Oakland and San Francisco, and all they had was big barracks, and that's the guys went there and stayed until they were assigned to a ship. And we spent about the guys with me spent about a week in Treasure Island. Then we went aboard the destroyer Bailey at Mare Island at Vallejo, and then from there we went overseas.
Did you see any strange action over there? Were you pretty safe, or were you pretty much involved in on the ship? I guess you're not really as much, huh?
I don't know if you'd call it safe or not. We got home.
Yeah.
That's a good
But
question.
we were in several engagements. I had 6 stars when we came home, and it was 6 engagements we got stars for, and we stayed over there until I didn't go ashore in Japan, but I saw Japan. That was all. Then they sent us home because they had all the new ships. They were fancier. Ours was getting old then. It was built in 1942, and this was in the last of 1945. And so we had a lot of time overseas, and we were sent home.
Oh,
Here, put the mic a little closer to me.
okay.
How about stories when it was freezing cold and you were doing some ranching? I'm sure
Yeah.
you've got a good
Some old ranching stories.
17 feet of snow story.
Yeah. Well, there was quite a few pretty cold, miserable nights when we were calving. The coldest was up here at Philipsburg because we had more cows to calve out, and I don't think the weather was any colder than down at Drummond, but it was cold, and if you had a cow out in the field and it was 20 below with a north wind blowing and she had a baby calf, you had to go out and get her and get the calf. And most of the time you had to take a saddle horse and drive the cow in, even if it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I made 2 trips out there one night that I could recall. And I don't think I was ever any colder in my life than I was then.
Probably not.
And my horse didn't even want to go back out in the field again.
I don't blame it. How did you meet your wife?
Well, I went to school with her brother, and I just met her because she lived down there, and I did too.
How many years have you guys been married for?
Boy, oh boy. I was going to say 100, but I don't think that's right. Well, about 44 years, I think.
Wow.
Or maybe it'll be 40. Well, somewhere along in there.
We won't tell her. That's funny.
Now what?
Thinking.
Yeah, we're thinking. Ever do any mining?
Mining?
Yeah.
Very, very little. I worked. I went up to just before I went in the service. I went up to Philipsburg to get rich working in the mines, and after a week of it, that was enough.
I don't blame you.
I don't see how the miners how they stood it, but they did, I guess. And that was my only mining experience.
How about logging? You had some property to log, did you at all?
A little bit. And when the first lease I had on a little place out of Hall, I didn't have very many cows to feed, so I used to work out a little bit in the wintertime. I even worked for the county for plowing snow for a week or something like that. And I logged a little bit, whatever, to put grub on the table.
Why did you stay in Philipsburg so long? Did you like the town? Did you think it was an interesting place to live? Or
Where was that?
Philipsburg?
Oh yeah, we liked it up there. We were both natives down here, but then we went up there and we really liked it. And the only reason that we sold out was on account of the gray hair, I guess. The work was getting too hard. And we were both tired.
Makes sense.
So after I retired, I bought a truck and a loader so I could work. I felt like I needed to work.
Yeah.
If I didn't work, I'd probably get old.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it kept me from getting old or not.
How many years ago did you retire from ranching?
We worked all summer in the year of '91 to put this sail together, and I think it was October, November, probably November of '91 when we finally got it made and got moved and got everything sold, and we moved into. Do you know where the Gwen house is at?
Yeah.
Excuse me. We rented that for a year while we were looking for a place to build a house. And we bought this from Doc Metcalf.
Oh.
So, and then the house was finished in just about Christmas of '92. So we spent a year up there at that house, and we've been here ever since.
When you were ranching and you needed a vet, did you call on Doc or?
Well, Doc was the only one around then. And, excuse me, Doc, he had 2 or 3 partners. He had Paul Bisnet first, and they kind of went in together, and they built the one in Deer Lodge, and Tony Heaton went in with them, and then Mark came along, and then Mark started his own business
Right.
up the Berg. And then that was about the time that, well, Doc wanted somebody else to answer some of the calls anyway.
Yeah.
So I started getting Mark because he was closer. And,
Yeah. Doc was getting old.
mm-hmm.
So Doc didn't bail you out of any real serious difficulties in a snowstorm at any time with your calves, or
Well,
pretty much had a
they helped me with some pretty hard calving, and in '69, '67, '68, somewhere along in there, I went to a AI school and to learn how to do artificial insemination. And I was going to try out my new skill, and I bought this semen from real big bulls. And I got some real big calves. The kind that I asked Doc one time, I said, boy, I was losing a lot of calves. I just couldn't seem to get them out of the cows. And so I said to Doc, I said, I'm going to have to get you to help me with these, and he says the next. I only artificially bred about 20 cows, and so I told Doc I'm going to call you when there was. I used about 3 different bulls, and I knew which one was the bad one.
Mm-hmm.
So Doc says, well, next time you call me, and don't even touch the cow. So I called Doc, and we had a dead calf when we got it. He had just as much trouble as I had, but he knew a lot more about it. Though he did,
Right.
he did a lot of. He got a lot of tough ones for me, but those, the answer was, don't use that bull semen anymore. So I stayed clear of that one.
Unless you could find a big cow, but I don't think that's not
Yeah.
what they're really looking for, huh? It's mostly
Even
bulls.
even if it was a big cow,
Yeah.
the calves' hips were so big you could get them out to the hips, and that was. But I did have one cow that was very. It was kind of interesting. It was but it wasn't that bull. It was a different one. But and I weighed every one of the calves, and I had a date on them, and they were half exotic. I had one cow, and she looked like she was hurting, but she had 2 twin bull calves, and the 2 of them together weighed 150 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
So I bet she was relieved when.
No kidding. That's big calves.
Did you raise any other livestock, Carl?
Well,
Besides
yeah,
cows?
we had cows all the time, and we had. I didn't use. I did a little bit of artificial insemination up at Philipsburg, but not very much. It was too time consuming, and we had more cows in and more work to do. So I quit using. I quit doing AI work.
Where did you go to school for that?
Right down there, ABS, American Breeders, had a representative in this part of Montana, and he was holding these schools. And Keith Graybill came along and asked me if there was room in our barn to put uh, we just put a pole up like a hitching rack, and we tied the cows up to that. And they got some cows. He bought some cows someplace that they were dry cows. They weren't going to have a calf anyway, and they were just going to be sold. So this ABS guy bought those cows, and he had about 20 of them, I think. And he uh, gave me the school for the right to use the barn.
Oh.
So we used the barn, and I went to school. And then after I learned that, I thought I might just as well use it a little bit and see if it worked. So that's where I went to school right there at home.
Mm.
They had quite a few students. Had they had 3 or 4 came over from Helmville, and I suppose there was maybe 10 guys.
What were some of the biggest ranches around here of that time period?
What were some of the biggest?
Ranches.
Well, probably one of the biggest would have been the maybe the T-Bar 3 up there,
Mm.
and Radke's. Hans Kofod had quite a lot of ground down this end.
Yeah.
And since then, since some of the old timers died, some of these like Ed Radke, Tom McGowan, and those they have bought some more of the grazing ground.
Right.
So they have expanded.
And gotten bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think.
No, I'm racking my brain here. You obviously didn't get.
Squirrels.
I know they're good background sounds. You didn't have any accidents in the when you were ranching. I know it's a very dangerous occupation, really.
Not too much. I've had my right foot broken about 3 times. Twice I've had horses fall on my foot. Once I got it between 2 logs and broke my ankle, and that was the biggest problem that I had was that one. I got infection in it, in the bone in it, and it took a year to get over it. I never did get all the way over it, but it's better now than it used to be.
Do you remember any stories from Prohibition down in your neck of the woods that would be funny tales to relate? That you could say on camera?
When, you mean when people used to have those fruit jars hid out in the shop and everything?
Right.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I can remember a couple times. I can remember my brother and I went out and was messing around in the shop, in the blacksmith shop, and I was about, 9 years old, 8 years old. My brother was 2 years younger, and we was looking through this. All the nails used to come in those little wooden kegs, like about the 5 gallon. They were made out of wood, just made like a barrel. Well, this one had a bunch of junk in it, and it had a gunny sack on top. We were snooping and looking, and there was a little fruit jar in there. And we took it out and took a smell of it, took a taste of it, and boy, pretty strong.
I bet.
That's about that's the only experience I had with. Uh, I was too young to know much about the moonshine days, but I can remember people. I can remember talk about a lot of the people making their own out and get up in some gulch up in the hills and had to steal.
That's funny.
And I hear tell they used to have quite a few dances in these parts.
Yep, they did. They had a pretty lively one right over here in Maxville when we were 17 or 18 years old. We used to go up there and we could get a little bit of beer to drink and have a big time for the night.
So your parents ranched this area too?
Hmm. My parents, when World War II started, uh, my dad felt like that he just had a lease. All of his, all in my younger years, uh, there wasn't much money around. It was really a depression time. But he leased this. Do you know where Jay Hendricks lives down there?
Yeah.
He leased that place for years, 8 or 9 years, and there was a lot of work to do on it, and Dad figured that my brother and I were both going to go in the service, and uh, he kind of lost his lease anyway. Another guy was bidding against him, and Dad didn't care too much, and he went down. My uncle lived in California. My uncle left up here in 1926 and went down there, and I guess California was a nice place then.
Yeah.
It was the weather was nice, and Mom and Dad went down there on a little vacation. Well, in the fall of '41, and that's just before the Pearl Harbor attack,
Mm-hmm.
and they decided that after December the 7th that there was going to be we was going to have to go in the service.
Mm-hmm.
So they made arrangements and they had a sale and they went down there and Dad said that he was going to come back up here after the war was over. My mother kind of liked that, having a garden all winter
Yeah.
and nice weather, and so they stayed down there. But they were getting old enough they didn't need to come back up here anyway.
Yeah.
So that's where they're at right now. They're both buried down there.
You guys travel down there? Do you travel in the winter at all, Carl?
Oh no, not now. I used to fly down every couple of years. I'd fly down and stay 4 or 5 days and visit with family and come home but Betty didn't want to go down and she thought that somebody should take care of the house,
Yeah.
which is all right. And I didn't want to stay much longer than 3 or 4 days anyway.
Mm-hmm. Where in California was it?
What part?
Yeah.
It's just north of Bakersfield.
Oh.
If you know where Bakersfield is. Porterville was a town.
Oh,
Mm.
Porterville.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My uncle had lived there for years, and so that's where in fact, when my dad went down there, him and my uncle leased some ground together, and some farming ground, and I don't know what they raised, potatoes or something, whatever they raised down there.
It's hot in that country.
It's hot.
Yeah,
It's hot.
yes. My mother told me many times that she said, I think I could stand the cold better than I could stand the heat. Because if you didn't have air conditioning in your house down there, you just cooked even at night.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. Well, is there anything you'd like to talk about, Carl? Do you have any topics we haven't covered? I know you got things to do today, so
Well,
maybe you...
I could tell you a little dirty story.
Okay,
Okay.
It isn't real dirty.
we're ready.
You can remember a few years ago, 20 years ago, they talked about streakers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people running all around
Yeah.
without any clothes on. Excuse me, that's terrible. We lived by the county road when I was about 5 years old. I guess my brother was 2 years younger, and my mother and dad, in nice weather, they took a team in a wagon. We didn't even have a car,
Mm-hmm.
and they took a team in a wagon and a lunch, and they'd go up in the hills and they'd get a load of wood. And my older sister was she must have been 8 or 9 years old. Then I had another sister just older than me, 2 years older. Us first 4 kids was kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
And my older sister was the boss. We were supposed to listen to her, and we got into an argument with her. And the county road was just a gravel road, and there wasn't anyone went by, but there was a road. And we got into a little tussle. So my brother and I went out on the road. We took all of our clothes off and was running up and down the road. It was kind of funny afterwards, but then it was a little bit silly too. We got my sister's attention. She came out and talked us into putting our clothes on and coming back to the house.
That's funny.
So you were the original streakers then?
Yeah, that's my contention, that the streakers wasn't anything new when we had that figured out a long time before that.
How funny.
those errands getting in the sun, so we're gonna lose our good light. If you can't think of anything else, we appreciate your time.
Well, I can't think of anything real. I could think of a lot of little stories that probably wouldn't be very smart to tell them. We went swimming. Clarence Waller and I went swimming one time. We used to ride horseback all the time on Sundays. We were about 15, and there was still snow on Nerland Mountain back at Hall, and snow drifts, and the
Right.
water was just like ice. We were riding one Sunday, and we came to a beaver dam that was that deep in Willow Creek, and we started daring one another to go swimming. So when we got all done, we jumped off, and there were horses, and jumped in, and we jumped back out again just about as fast as we jumped in.
I bet.
But it's funny now. It was funny then. It didn't hurt us any,
It's just water.
but just water. There wasn't any soap in it. Well, I don't know anything else.
Okay, we don't want to make you look stupid. We better turn off the camera. All right, Carl. Well, thank you for your time.
Yep,
That was great.
yep.